Hey there, everyone. This is meteorologist Ryan Weekman from the Storm Track Weather Center. Thank you once again for joining us for our Sunday night weather hangout. It happens every Sunday night at 8:30, or well, nearly every Sunday night. If you're new to the program, thank you for tuning in for the first time. We've been doing this for several months now. We're kind of getting into a groove here, but I'll lay down some of the base things that we do here every Sunday night. First of all, this is hosted on Google+, so if you have a Gmail account, and you can very easily join Google+. Doing these Hangouts can be much more interactive if you join the Hangout Live. I've got a section here that you can't see, but it's on my screen right here, where you can ask questions live. Of course, many of you, I'm sure, have picked this up off my Facebook and Twitter pages. I always invite you to ask questions beforehand on there as well. I'm going to answer some of these, one from Beth, one from Jacqueline, asking about a couple days later on in the forecast. We'll get to some personalized questions, but as always, we're going to talk about the forecast first and what we're looking at. This Hangout really gives me an opportunity to kind of go behind the forecast. I only get 2 to 3 minutes on air during any newscast to give you a little information as far as when it's going to rain, what the highs and lows are going to be, but of course there's a lot more information to get to. So this is a great opportunity for me to show you some other things and talk about some other things that are going on in the weather across the country, and specifically what's going to be affecting us. And of course, these Hangouts are also useful because, well, we do them every Sunday night. This past week, we were able to do them before severe weather hit the area on Wednesday, and it's an opportunity to give some last-minute information, give you the very latest forecast as far as what we're expecting for severe weather. So, without much further ado, I know many of you are going to be watching this after the fact. It is a very nice evening for us here Sunday night across northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan, so I don't blame you one bit that a lot of you are out enjoying the last few hours, daylight hours, of the weekend for us here. But hey, we're still going to give you some good information if you're watching this later. That's the cool part about these Hangouts. You can join them live or you can watch them later. Of course, they're all published into YouTube form, so very easy to see for us here. So let's get into some of the behind the forecast, so to speak, things that I'm looking at here in the Weather Center. And the first thing I'm going to show you is just how dry things have been for the most part this weekend. We had a few showers for this morning, but we've had some great sunshine, especially yesterday and this afternoon. The problem is, for us to get more showers, we need some deeper moisture. And right now, there's the screenshot for you. Anywhere that you see the green or the blue, the green is the deeper moisture, the yellow is high moisture content across the southeastern and southern United States. Well, the way that this is laid out right now is well to the west of us, pretty much right up the Mississippi and Missouri river valleys. Put this into motion. You can see it's trying to head our way. It will arrive for tomorrow. And once it does so, that'll be our first chance for some scattered thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon when we get some daytime heating with a weak little system that's going to move across the southern Great Lakes. I think it'll be enough to spark off some scattered thunder showers. And potential is there for some very isolated severe weather as well. It's not the biggest and baddest setup that we've ever seen, but anytime that you deal with thunderstorms in late June when temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 80s, there's enough energy there that we could see some thunderstorms that produce some strong straight line winds. Here's another map that I like to show you a lot on these Hangouts, but I don't do very much on air. A, there's not much time, and B, it is kind of complex. These are the type of things that if you went to a doctor's office and you got an MRI done or something like that, or x-rays done or something, this is something that we sit here and we study a lot, just like the doctors would, to see exactly what's going on with the state of the atmosphere. And what we see, one centered over the Quad Cities down towards Quincy, Illinois, complex of thunder showers, and another that's now exploded across parts of the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma up into Kansas. And of course you have your traditional southeastern U.S. daytime heating thunderstorms that always happen down in Florida and the southeastern United States. You notice, though, further to the north, the complex here across Illinois and Iowa and then back towards Kansas as well, if I put the other map back on, it correlates very strongly to where the deeper moisture is right there across the Quad Cities and again down towards Quincy, Illinois. And then you go back to the west, and you're seeing a nose of moisture there as well across Kansas and the panhandles of Oklahoma. So this is something that we watch a lot of times, is the leading edge of deeper moisture pushing back in, and that's what we'll have for tomorrow as the moisture moves back in. It's going to give it a little bit more of that muggy kind of muggy, heavy feeling in the air. You're going to notice that by tomorrow afternoon for sure. Here's a different view, one that you're probably all a little bit more familiar with as far as what radar looks like. And this is kind of fun, actually. We have a line of thunderstorms almost to Chicago, through Kansas City, and back towards all the way to Dodge City, Kansas, really, Woodward, Oklahoma or so. So about a 1,000-mile stretch there, maybe 500 miles or so, long stretch of thunderstorms. This all happens during peak daytime heating. And one thing you'll notice, the software that I'm using here, by the way, is called SimuWaveWhips. It's totally free. Go on there, check it out. It's really good stuff. But I want to zoom in here. Close this guy out. There we go. Notice these bowing segments right here. One extends from Topeka, Kansas, back down just north of Wichita there. Well, if you put these into motion, watch how fast these explode, first of all. Very cool thunderstorms. Well, the leading edge of that bow, so the apex of the bow, the furthest part out from the bow, that's typically where you get your strongest straight line winds. And I want you to keep this in mind because in a little bit I'm going to show you what some of our forecast models are showing for tomorrow. They're showing a very similar feature of that bowing out. And while the atmosphere really isn't primed tomorrow for widespread severe weather, there's enough instability there that it's certainly a possibility and something that we're going to be watching. But we'll talk about that in just a second. But again, let's look at the radar out here, because while it's not impacting our local area, Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan right now, there's things that we can learn by looking off to the west and seeing what's going on. So from Kansas City all the way back towards, again, Dodge City, Kansas. Here's a good line segment as well. You'll notice a lot of times when these thunderstorms first flare up, in the afternoon, they tend to be the strongest. It's once you get a lot of thunderstorms competing for the atmosphere, so to speak, they try to, here's the best way to think of this, and this is the analogy that I like to use. These thunderstorms, they're essentially animals. They like to feast. What goes up must come down. Well, for everything that goes in, it must come out. And while these thunderstorms, they feed on the instability, that hot, humid air. You can almost feel it in the summertime. That instability, that's what they use for the fuel. And once you get one storm that pops up, that's great because it can suck in that warm, unstable air. And a lot of times it can be a very strong thunderstorm or even to severe levels. Well, once you get one that goes up, you tend to get a lot of friends that start to pop up as well. And once they start competing for that, that's when you start to have a few more troubles with keeping those thunderstorms strong enough to be a severe level. And here's the issue for tomorrow. When you think about that food analogy, the storm's eating up all of that energy. Well, tomorrow there's not a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere. That's essentially the best way to think about it is the turning of winds in different layers of the atmosphere. And that really keeps the updraft of the storm in really good shape and helps keep thunderstorms stronger. Without that shear in the atmosphere, you have to think about, instead of a nice orderly buffet that people go on down, it's a free-for-all that the storms are going for. And so they eat up as fast as they can all the instability that's in the air. And once that's gone, it's like they look around and then they start to fall apart. You kind of get the analogy there. So tomorrow we're going to see thunderstorms, I believe, go up very quickly, and they'll look impressive for, let's say, a half hour, an hour, maybe even 90 minutes, and then you'll really start to see them fall apart once you get those other storms forming, and it turns into that free-for-all situation. So I want you guys to pay attention, those of you that are avid weather watchers out there, and you love to see how thunderstorms develop and the skies get dark, and you open up the Storm Track weather app and you look at that. Keep that in mind for tomorrow. Those storms are going to look very impressive at first, but most likely we'll start to see them decay rather rapidly. Within, let's say, 2 to 3 hours, they'll just turn into general thunderstorms for us here. Again, that doesn't mean there's not some severe weather potential with strong straight-line winds or some microbursts, but it doesn't look as organized as what we had last Wednesday across the area, at least not right now for us here. All right, let's go back to the screen sharing here. Okay, there's that bow echo. You got that in mind for us here? Let's show you this one here. This is our RPM model that we're going to use, and this is what we use a lot of times for our hour-by-hour forecast. This is tomorrow afternoon. Actually, this is about 10:30 in the morning. Things are heating up. You see an ongoing cluster of thunderstorms in southern Michigan is what this model is depicting. A lot of this is tied to those thunderstorms that are actually ongoing in Illinois right now. But watch, by the time we get towards the early afternoon, this is actually 3:30 in the afternoon, so mid-afternoon, See how those thunderstorms really start to pop from Detroit to just north of Adrian, back down towards Fort Wayne. You can't take this as the gospel. This is a computer representation of where the storms, it says, are going to form. It's not saying this is exactly where it's going to be, but I think it has a pretty good handle on it. I want you to watch. See, we have a concerted line that I mentioned from basically Pontiac, Michigan, back down through to Fort Wayne. But you see these little cells that pop up in front of the line? Those are the ones that create that free-for-all situation, eating up a lot of the energy in the atmosphere. You still get a pretty decent line, and this one depicts it happening to come right through Toledo. And outside of that, you still have lots of thunderstorms that are out there as well for us, likely sub-severe for us. But look at that. Within 2 to 3 hours, you see how that line really starts to dwindle in size, kind of falls apart for us here. And we still have other rain showers and thunderstorms on the backside of this that we'll deal with. That's why we've increased the chance for that precipitation. But it's just not the most impressive setup overall that we've seen, again, compared to last week when we had a little bit more wind shear in the atmosphere for us here. Nevertheless, SPC has put out a C text area, and basically this is them saying that, yeah, there's the possibility of severe weather. This is the lowest probability that they put out, and I wouldn't be surprised if early in the morning tomorrow, for those of you that check SPC a lot and you check Storm Prediction Center, they might put a slight risk out for northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and southern Michigan. But they may wait to see how the atmosphere exactly handles all the thunderstorms that are ongoing right now to see exactly what they're going to do with that. So that's something we're going to be watching very closely. Get to some of these questions. I see a lot of you that are hanging out on Google Plus have been asking questions. I promise I'm going to get to those. Again, if you're watching this on the Storm Track Weather blog, which is what I've linked to on my Twitter and Facebook pages, look up. There's some text up there. Again, you can get signed up for Google Plus. It's the cool way to really hang out here because if you're on Facebook and Twitter, obviously it's very difficult for me to be checking those right now. I've got other computers over here. I'm not just looking into outer space, I promise. See? There you go. Oh, and our coffee maker. Chris Vickers will use that one in the morning. But it's very difficult, obviously, for me to check Facebook and Twitter while we're doing these Hangouts. So you have to get those questions in early. If you're on Google Plus, like I see Jack is and Crystal is, they can be asking questions right now on the sidelines here, and I'll be getting to some of those in a hurry for us here. But let's get to some of those questions. I'm going to kind of do a dual thing here where I'm going to answer some questions, and I'm also going to get to talking about the 7-day forecast. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to pop that up on the screen for you here so you guys can check out. This is the very latest 7-day forecast. You can find this always at ToledoNewsNow.com, and I'm sure a lot of you have our Storm Track weather app. It's totally cool, especially when we've got some thunderstorms rolling through the area. It's amazing how you can really track those storms with Storm Track Doppler in the palm of your hand. Really cool. You'll notice Monday we've increased the chance for rain there accordingly with what's looking like a pretty unstable atmosphere during the afternoon hours. All right, Beth was asking about Thursday, asking about the Art Walk. I believe it's here in Toledo. You'll notice 80 degrees, sunshine. If there's a day where I think is the lowest out of all of the next 7 days for rain, it's Thursday. So I'm thinking Thursday is going to look really good for you, but don't worry about that. Jacqueline was asking, she's flying home Wednesday, flying back to Ohio. What does the weather look like? It's not completely out of the question in central and southern Ohio that there could be a few showers or thunderstorms, but here in Toledo and northwest Ohio, southeastern Michigan, the chance is low enough that we've kept the chance for showers off of that. Something else I want to draw your attention to, Saturday and Sunday. So heading into 4th of July week, there are starting to show some signs that we could be increasing the temperatures. Potentially our first extended period in the low to mid-90s potentially is on the way. But we've really got to see how the atmosphere is going to react. A lot of times as those ridges try to build in, those high pressures start to settle in over the Tennessee and Ohio river valleys, what will happen is you build up a lot of energy, a lot of instability. Those of you that are watching from Finley, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Almost 2 years ago now, June 29th, when that big windstorm, the derecho, came on through, that was the type of setup where you get that high pressure that sets up in the Tennessee River Valley. It spews a lot of instability our way because things are so warm, hot, and humid. With the jet stream aligned far to the north in the northern Great Lakes, all it takes is a little piece of energy from that jet stream, and you get a little spark in the morning, and you can see some thunderstorms developing and try to push into that instability and really create some problems as far as some damaging winds and some heavy rainfall as well. So it's far enough out there. We're not predicting a duration. We're not predicting a widespread wind event, but it's one of those things that we got to watch where it looks like temperatures are going to be increasing, and along with that, this time of the year increases the threat for some thunderstorms as well. So you'll see that on Sunday. I put that chance, but it's far enough out there. There's a ton and a half of questions as far as where any thunderstorms could be. So that's why we're keeping the chance pretty low. But it's something, since you guys are watching my Sunday Night Weather Hangout, I wanted to give you the lowdown on what we're expecting. So keep that in mind. I'm not predicting any triple-digit type of heat or anything like that right now, but it does look like very likely our warmest stretch of weather that we've seen so far this year is about a week away or so from now, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks away. So just keep that in mind. And what else would you expect? We're heading into the end of June and the first part of July. It's just like if we were sitting here in January and I said, hey guys, it looks like it's going to get cold. You all would look around and go, well, it is January. So what else would you expect, right? All right, so we all agree on that. Doesn't look like anything record-breaking at this point for us here. Okay, let's get to some other questions here. And again, if you're hanging out on Google+, I'll answer these directly for you. Jack asked, is the pollen going to be bad the whole summer? Jack, I think we had a situation where a lot of things bloomed late this year because of how harsh the winter was. I don't think necessarily we're going to go through a year where the pollen is all of a sudden going to get better. I mean, it is Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan. A lot of things grow around here. It is a swampland. You get a lot of pollen from a lot of different sources. So very possibly the pollen is going to stay pretty high, especially as we get this rain and this heat. You get those back and forth cycles. I know the rain knocks the pollen out of the air, but you get these warm days mixed in here as well. You can get that pollen flying again. So, yeah, I would expect. I can't say I've gone through many years where people have said, the pollen hasn't been that bad this year. It seems like every year the pollen is going to be bad. So I'd say it's just something that you kind of have to expect. And Jack asked another question. All the rainy weather have anything to do with all the mosquitoes? Jack, it's just that time of the year, I think, buddy. Ditches, creeks. Yeah, I mean, if it rains, you have more standing water around. But I have to say, overall, the number of mosquitoes I've noticed have been lower, but that doesn't mean that's actually true. It's just that time of the year. We live in the Great Black Swamp. So, Jack, yep, mosquitoes are going to be around. Crystal was asking, when's the next time we're going to see severe weather? Again, it's possible for tomorrow. We're going to watch for some straight-line wind potentially tomorrow, some of those microbursts, and some heavy downpours as well. I think that's probably the best chance we have for the next 5 days or so. Very likely is tomorrow afternoon for any chance for severe weather. Of course, we're going to keep you guys up to date. If it's completely necessary, we'll do a special severe weather hangout right here. We'll post this on Twitter and Facebook and give you guys a chance to ask all sorts of questions there as well. But right now, it doesn't look like it's a very high threat. It's something where you could get 1 or 2 wind gust reports. But, of course, we'll see how it evolves over the next 24 hours or so for us here. So, see, we had a bunch of people in here watching tonight. I certainly appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you're looking at this on our Storm Track Weather blog, there's lots of good links up there that you guys can click on. Lots of Facebook, Twitter pages, and also Google Plus pages that you guys can like, and there's all sorts of information. And if you want to, you can look down below. There's other good reads if you really like the weather, astronomy, all sorts of good stuff that you guys can read and learn a little more information about. So, thank you guys very much for watching this week's edition of Sunday Night Weather Hangout. I'm going to see all of you either at 10 o'clock over at Fox, or hopefully I'll see you over on Channel 11 at 11, WTOL, for the news for tonight. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. If I don't get to see you again, have a great week.